For centuries before, humans believed that the real source of authority in the world is not their imagination, is not their collective power, but most humans thought that authority actually comes from outside. Authority comes from above the clouds, from the heavens. Authority comes from the gods. The most important sources of authority in politics, in economics, in ethics were the great gods and their sacred books and their representatives on earth. The priests, the rabbis, the shamans, the caliph, the popes, and so forth. Then in the last 2-3 centuries, we saw the humanist revolution, a tremendous political and religious and ethical revolution, which said basically, which brought down authority from the heavens down to earth, down to humans, and said that the most important source of authority, the supreme source of authority in all fields of life is human beings. And in particular, it is the feelings and the free choices of human individuals. What humanism told humans is that when you have some problem in your life, whether it's a problem in your personal life, or whether it's a problem in the collective life of an entire society or an entire nation, you don't need to look for the answer from God or from the Bible or of some big brother. You need to look for the answer within yourself, in your feelings, in your free choices. And we've all heard thousands of times these slogans which tell us, listen to yourself, connect to yourself and follow your heart, do what feels good to you. And these are really the most important ideas or advices about authority for the last 2 or 3 centuries. In almost all fields of life. If we start with politics, so in a humanist world, in a world that believes that the highest authority is human feelings, in politics this manifests itself in the idea that the voter is the supreme authority. The voter knows best. When you have some really big political decision, like who should rule the country, who should be president, so you don't ask God, and you don't ask the Pope, and you don't ask the Council of Nobel laureates. Rather, you go to each and every Homo sapiens, and you ask, what do you think? What do you feel about this question? And most of the time, it's really the feelings that decide the issue. It's not rational thinking. It's human feelings. And the common assumption in humanist politics is that there is no higher authority than human feelings. You cannot come to humans and tell them, yes, you think like that, you feel like that, but there is some higher authority that tells you that you are wrong. This was the case, for example, in the Middle Ages, but not in modern humanistic politics, certainly not in a democracy. The same thing is true also in the economic field. What is humanist economics? It's an economic view that says that the highest authority is the feelings, the wishes, the whims of individual customers. The customer is always right. How do you know if an economic decision is the right decision? How do you know if a product is a good product? In a humanist economy, you ask the customers. The customers vote with their credit card, and once they voted, there is no higher authority that can tell the customers, no, you are wrong. Let's say you want to produce the best car in the world. What is the best car in the world? So let's say Toyota or Ford want to produce the best car in the world. They gather together the Nobel Prize winners in physics and chemistry and economics. They bring together the best psychologists and sociologists. They even throw in the best artists and the Oscar winners and whatever. And they give them 4 years to think together and design and manufacture the perfect car. And they do it. And they produce the Toyota Perfect or the Ford Perfect. And then they produce millions of these cars and send them to car agencies all over the country or all over the world. And the customers don't buy the cars. What does it mean? Does it mean that the customers are wrong? No. The customer is always right in a humanistic economy. It means that all these wise people are wrong. They are not a higher authority than the customer. In a communist dictatorship, you can come to the people and say, this is the car for you. The Politburo decided in its wisdom that this is the perfect car for the Soviet worker, and this is the car you're going to have. But this is not how it works in a liberal humanistic economy where there is no higher authority than the customer. The same idea is also found at the basis of modern art. What is humanist art? It is art that believes that beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. How do you know what is art? How do you know what is good art, what is beautiful, and what is ugly? For thousands of years, philosophers and thinkers and artists had all kinds of theories about what is art and what is beautiful. And usually, they thought that there was some objective yardstick, a divine yardstick probably, that defines art and beauty. God defines what is art and what is beautiful. Then came along humanist aesthetics in the last 2 centuries and shifted the source of authority to human feelings. Beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. In 1917, exactly a century ago, Marcel Duchamp took an ordinary mass-produced urinal, declared it a work of art, named it Fountain, and ever since then, if you went to a first-year course in art history, you probably saw this image. Almost in every first-year history of art course, they bring this image in one of the first lessons, and the lecturer shows the image and asks the students, well, what do you think? And all hell breaks loose. Hey, it's art, it's not art, it is, it isn't. How do you define art? And at least if this is a humanist university or a humanist college, the lecturer will steer the discussion to the conclusion that there is no objective definition or yardstick for art or for beauty. Art is anything that human beings think or define as art. And beauty is in the eye of the beholder. If you think that this is a beautiful work of art, and you're willing to pay millions of dollars to have it in your home, and it costs millions of dollars, now the Fountain by Marcel Duchamp, then who is there in the world that can tell you that you are wrong and that you don't know what art is or what beauty is? So this is humanist aesthetics. The same principle also appears in the ethical field. What is good and what is evil? What is a pious action and what is a sin? So in previous eras, again, you went to God or you went to the Pope or you went to the Bible. Let's say with the case of homosexuality. So in the Middle Ages, the Catholic Church came and said homosexuality is a sin. Why? Because God said so. Because the Bible said so. Because the Pope said so. And this was the source of ethical authority. Nobody cared much what people actually felt about it. Now in the era of humanist ethics, the saying is we don't care very much what God says or what the Bible says or what the Pope says. We want to know how people actually feel. If 2 men are in love and they both feel very happy with that and they don't harm anybody, so what could possibly be wrong with it? It's very simple. The highest authority in the field of ethics is the authority of human feelings. If humans feel good about something and nobody feels bad about it, then it's good. Of course, there are some difficult questions also in humanist ethics. What happens if I feel good about something, let's say an extramarital affair, but my husband feels very bad about it? So whose feelings count for more? Then you have a dilemma, an ethical dilemma. You have a discussion. But the key point is that the discussion will be conducted in terms of human feelings, not in terms of divine commandments. It's interesting that today even some religious fundamentalists have learned this trick, and they are using the language of human feelings and not the language of divine commandments. I come from the Hebrew University in Jerusalem, and every year for the past 10 years or so, we have in Jerusalem our own gay parade, which is a very rare day of harmony in Jerusalem, because this is a very conflict-ridden city for most of the year. But the gay parade is a special day of harmony, because then you have all the Orthodox Jews and Muslims and Christians coming together to fume and to shout against the gay parade. So you have one day of harmony in this city. But the really interesting thing is the arguments that at least some of them use. They go to the television or to the radio, and they say, it hurts our feelings. They don't say, God said that homosexuality is a terrible sin. Some of them say so, of course, but when they go on television, they would usually say they shouldn't hold a gay pride parade in Jerusalem because it hurts our feelings. Just the same way that gay people want us to respect their feelings, they should respect our feelings and hold the parade in Tel Aviv or some other place, not in Jerusalem. Now again, it doesn't really matter what you think about the argument. The interesting point here is that even such religious fundamentalists have learned that it's more effective to conduct the debate in terms of human feelings and not in terms of divine commandments. And finally, since we are in a university, so let's say a few words also about education. So what is humanist education? For hundreds of years, when people thought that the supreme source of authority was outside humans, the main aim of education was to connect people to that outside source of authority. If you thought, for example, that the Bible was the highest source of authority, or God was the highest source of authority, then the main purpose of education was to teach you what God said and what the Bible said and what the wise people of the past have said. In humanist education, since the highest source of authority is your own feelings and your own thoughts, the chief aim, the most important aim, is to enable you to think for yourself. You go to everybody from kindergarten to the professors at university, and you ask them, what are you trying to teach the kids, the pupils, the students? And they would tell you, oh, we try to teach mathematics, and we try to teach physics, and we try to teach history. But above all, I try to teach my students to think for themselves. This is the highest ideal of humanist education, because this is the source of authority. You have to be able to connect to it.